right. Hey guys, welcome back to Defying the Odds presented by Greater Than Expectations. This week, I would love to welcome Rachel Phillips. She is a social counselor with Uplift Education, and she also has her own practice. So please help me welcome Rachel to the stream. Rachel, thank
Hi,
you so much.
thank you so much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to talking with you.
No, I'm looking forward to talking to you because growing up in every school I've ever attended, there's always been a counselor and I never really like besides a guidance counselor, I really didn't know, what was going on behind that door. So can you tell me a little bit about what a social counselor is?
Yeah, it basically is the one that's responsible for all things mental health on the campus. And so, and I love that about Uplift Education System because they have really taken that on as far as making sure that our scholars have mental health services right there on campus. So if a scholar is struggling with, coping with what's going on with the pandemic right now, maybe there's some issues going on at home, maybe there's some food scarcity things, maybe the family is having some financial struggles. So I kind of double as a mental health therapist and also as a social worker. So I help point the family in the direction of different resources. With this last winter storm we just had, our network was very fortunate to get a substantial donation where we were able to provide for families Walmart gift cards to help them out with their food or supplies or things like that. So those are just some of the things that we do. And then, of course, with suicide prevention, self-harming prevention, bullying, all of those things. We do it all.
That's amazing. Like I said, I never knew what occurred behind that door. So do you work with students who kind of being removed from their home or on the path to being removed from their home or students in care at all?
Yeah, we have had students that were definitely involved with foster care system, involved with CPS. Some have had to be removed from their homes. Some we have assisted with that process in regards to helping CPS. We of course we want families to stay together, but if it's
Mhm.
an unhealthy or dysfunctional environment and it's not safe for the children, then sometimes that's best. So we have aid at CPS and some of those things. And then I have worked with children that are currently in the foster care system. Their families are their foster families, and they are students or scholars in the Uplift system.
Wow. So in the daytime, you are a social counselor, doubling, counselor doubling as a social worker in some cases. And what do you spend your
Mhm.
evenings doing?
Excuse me, I didn't hear that.
What do you spend your evenings doing?
Oh my goodness, my evenings. I have started my own practice, which I'm so excited about it. It's virtual. It is Healing Hearts Counseling Services, which is just awesome. And so I see clients in the evenings from 6 till 10 p.m. And you can look at the bottom at your screen and you can see my business name is scrolling across and how to reach me. So I do partner. The way it works is I partner with BetterHelp, and I'm sure some of your audience has heard of BetterHelp. And so I contract with them in order to for clients to be able to reach out to me. And then BetterHelp basically connects me with the clients, and I do the counseling services. And it's my own, like I said, it's my own practice. So I'm really, really enjoying that. And I did launch this during this pandemic.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure people needed it during the pandemic more than ever. But that's amazing. Like Dr. Ward said, this is awesome because during the day you're a counselor, you're counseling young minds and leading them up in the right direction, and then in your evenings you're still doing that. Now let's get into your journey through care. Has being in care impacted your desire to become a counselor, your desire to kind of go get your licenses?
Um, I would say it did. It did impact that. I'll tell you this. I was in foster care for a very short period of time.
Mhm.
I was adopted, as a matter of fact, myself, my sister, and my two brothers, all of us were adopted by my parents in our infancy. So I probably was maybe 7, 8 months old when I was adopted. So I don't exactly really remember being in foster care, but I do remember when I found out that I was adopted, and kind of that story that went along with that. If you want me to share that.
Please share that. Please share
Okay.
that.
So my parents were big with foster care. They had um, several groups of foster children in and out of our home throughout my entire childhood. They really loved kids, and so we were the ones, however, that they adopted. But they had children in and out, and so they also spearheaded in our community. I'm originally from, believe it or not, Iowa, and I say that because a lot of people don't think there's people that look like us in Iowa, but there is a large population of African Americans in Iowa, and in our community, which is Waterloo, Iowa. My parents basically spearheaded getting other parents, other families in the community to adopt. So there are numerous of us that were adopted at infancy that my parents spearheaded that whole movement. However, the story goes that basically, as children talk, one day we were at school, and somehow, the children started saying, "You all are adopted. You don't even look alike. You're adopted." And we're like, "No, we're brothers and sisters. We're not adopted," because we hadn't been told that. Well, I think I might have been like maybe in fourth or fifth grade, or maybe third or fourth grade. But anyway, and so I remember I came home and I was crying. I mean, I was just tears just streaming. And my dad said, "What's the matter? What's going on?" And I said, "They're saying that we're adopted." And so he looked at my mom. He said, "I think it's time we tell them." And so they set us down and they told us then that we were adopted. But the beautiful thing that I remember my dad said, because we were all in shock, he said, "You know what?" He said, "You all are very special, because when you have a child, you don't have a choice of what you have. But when you adopt a child, you get to pick the best." And that made everything all right. And from that point on, it was like, this is mom, this is dad. And we just kept it moving. So basically we felt special because we were picked, all four of
Yeah, you
us.
guys were handpicked. You guys were actually chosen. Everybody else, was an accident. No, I'm kidding. But but no, that's a really beautiful story, because some people, when you look at adoption, some people don't like it and then go off in search of their birth parents, or don't understand what happened. But also you have to look at it from the beautiful side. Like, somebody saw you and saw everything in you and just wanted you. They didn't wait to meet you and pray like, all right, let's just hope this child is this way. They looked at you and they say, you know what, this is the child that's for me. And I think that
Yes,
is one of the beauties of adoption. So
I agree.
have you kind of gone on in your life to adopt?
Actually, I have not. God blessed me with a boy and a girl, biological, and because I was adopted, it's very interesting. But when you're adopted, there's always this sense, at least for me, and for most adopted kids, of wanting to know something about their biology. And
Mhm.
so, since I didn't know anything about my biological parents, um, I wanted to experience having children of my own. And I remember when I had my son, and I was just playing with him one day, on the floor, and it just hit me. It's like, whoa, this child came from me. I mean, it was just like an epiphany. I mean, I knew he came from me, but it's almost kind of like an aha moment, as Oprah would say. And it was like, this is my flesh and blood. And so I often tell my son and daughter, you're the only flesh and blood biological that I know of,
Yeah.
which is kind of deep.
Yeah, because like you were adopted, so you don't, you're unaware of that. And with that, like your bloodline really starts at them. Like they have a great family tree, but like this is your flesh and blood, your genes that you actually created.
Yes,
That's lovely.
definitely.
That's lovely. And so after sitting down and realizing that you were adopted, did it change your view on anything?
It actually really didn't. As I said, my parents never made any, they looked at us as their biological children, and they never made any difference with it. It was very interesting, though. I'm going to share one thing with you. And I know you've heard of colorism
Mhm.
that happens in our community, and that happened actually in my family,
Oh,
because I am kind of, darker complexion. My younger siblings are a little bit lighter, more on the caramel side. And I remember one of my aunts on my dad's side came and saw us for the first time. And my mom, actually, she told me, reminded me of this story. And she was like, she told my mom, "Why did you get that dark baby?" Talking about me. And my mom was like, because, this was during the time where, you needed to be brown like a paper bag, that paper bag thing. That's real. And my mom went off. She's like, "Don't you ever talk about my baby like that. That's my child." I mean, she went off because she's like, "You're not going to damage my child's self-esteem, and all of that." So I just wanted to share that does happen. So in regards to us being adopted, that's the only thing that I really remember as being, a little bit off-putting, but everything else, I mean, we were treated like we were their own.
wow. So you experienced colorism literally in the cradle. That's
Hmm.
okay. Well, that's
Yeah,
ridiculous, but
that's a whole nother show, isn't it?
no, it is. It's an entirely different show that a conversation that needs to
Yeah.
be had. But
Hmm.
you're in your field, especially being a social counselor. Um, do you realize a kind of a disconnect between like kids who are going into care versus kids who are not going into care? I remember last year when I was doing a CASA training, they informed us
Hmm.
that social workers, regardless of the race, tend to put kids, black kids or brown kids, into foster care at a much higher rate than their white counterparts.
Hmm.
Do you see that in
Hmm.
your role?
I do see that. And that's unfortunate. I don't know if that happens because that the social work really doesn't feel that the family can remain intact. There's all sorts of reasons I think that happens. When I lived in Iowa, I actually was on a foster care review board.
Mhm.
Um, and what we did is we were the ones that would read through these case files that were just stacks, and we would then give our opinion to the judge as to whether or not these children should remain in the home or should they be removed from the home. A lot of times when we would vote for them to be removed from the home, it's because it was a very dysfunctional home and a potential danger to the child, like there was substance abuse issues, there might have been domestic violence, things of that nature. But if the parents could kind of get their act together, then we would vote to keep that family intact as much as possible. I think, unfortunately, in the foster care system, it's been my impression that sometimes social workers rush to get brown and black children out of homes as opposed to really trying to work with the parents or the guardians to get them the added resources that they need, whether that's family counseling, whether that's substance abuse counseling, whether that's more financial resources, whatever that they need to try to keep these families intact.
Right.
And I do see that happening a lot more with black and brown children.
Yeah, that has to be heavy to deal with in your line of work. And it's not even like you leave it at the door once you get home, because once you get home, you open up an entirely different door and an adult problem and life,
Hmm.
all of that comes into play. So I want to
Hmm.
know, what is your driving force? What is motivating you? This is a heavy line of work.
Hmm. I Point blank, Tiana, I'm called to do. This is part of my calling. This is why God put me on this earth, to help hurting people. That's why my counseling service is Healing Hearts. There are a lot of hearts that are hurting out there.
Right.
And I feel that I call myself, and I tell my clients when they first meet me, I'm the psychological surgeon. So I'm goes in and I peel off those bandages that you put over these emotional wounds that you've carried for years, these traumas that you've dealt with for years. I peel it off and we dig into that thing and get it cleaned out so that the healing process can really start. And it's a tiresome thing, but it's a very rewarding when people learn that they can have a better life, that they can be a better version of themselves, that they can accomplish dreams and things that they want to do. So it, yes, it is taxing, but it's rewarding, and it's my calling, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Is there any advice you would give to people out there today? In in our culture, sometimes seeking out a therapist, it's a taboo subject. Sometimes it's looked down upon. Sometimes they tell you to give it to
Mm-hmm.
God. What
Mm-hmm.
advice can you give to people, especially people who are kind of on the fence about therapy?
Okay. I would say it's getting better in our culture. And that's one reason why I went into this field, because I saw that it was not a lot of people that looked like us sitting across the desk. When I had my own personal, counseling, my own personal therapy, it was not someone sitting across the desk that looked like me. And I said, you know something, I got to get into this field because we need to see more of us looking, being able to address our issues, because our issues are different
Mhm.
than issues that for Hispanic people, Latinx population, for the Caucasian population, for the Indian. Our issues are different. And to be quite honest, our people have been depressed for a long time
Yeah.
because we were oppressed for a long time. It's just that we never really, we got therapy, but we got it from Big Mama. Go and sit up and talk to Big Mama about, what's going on. Great great grandmama. That was our therapy. Okay. So now that we've stepped into this Western world, we do need to seek therapy, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I see a lot more of us starting to come to it. My thing is this: the brain is an organ just like any other part of your body.
Hmm.
It's the most important part, because if your brain is not working correctly, if it is sick or ill, then it impacts every other part of your body, because it tells every part of your body what to do. So why is it in this country, and I get on a soapbox about that, so you got to stop me, Tiana. Why is it that we feel that someone can have diabetes or high blood pressure or asthma or any other physical illness, and it's okay? It's not a stigma, but when you say you deal with depression or bipolar disorder or schizophrenia runs in your family or whatever, then people are looking at you like you have three heads. That's ridiculous. We need to embrace mental health the same way we embrace physical health in this country. And right now with this pandemic, we're going to see a lot more trauma, because that's something I specialize in, is trauma therapy. We are going to see a lot more trauma with people having lost loved ones, with first line responders, particularly our people in the healthcare field, our doctors and nurses, watching people die day after day after day. That is wartime. I'm prior military, by the way, as well. And so that is a wartime experience. And you're talking about PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. This country is not even ready for the PTSD that we're going to experience once this pandemic passes.
And people are companies especially are out just saying, willy-nilly, hey, let's get back to work. There's not any mental health days in fields. There's not a short term leave for medical mental illnesses, for
Mhm.
depression. things like that. And even if there is the approval process, is so long. By the time it gets approved, like you don't know what's going on. You've been working with it for about a year, and it's something
Mm-hmm.
that is really just bringing you down. Definitely think this is in this country, especially like this is something that is it's so taboo still, and it's not fair. And after the
Yeah.
pandemic, your business it'll be booming because people are depressed. You know, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
it's wartime, and then
Mm-hmm.
also as like look at our students, look at our children, and
Yes.
everything that they're going through, and it's sad to say, but parents are looking at them and saying, you know, well, this is the world we live in, and that's just they're
Mm-hmm.
just supposed to accept that. So both in your school field and once you get home,
Mm-hmm.
you're dealing with all of these people.
Yes, unfortunate, we have seen a tremendous rise in suicidal outcries among our children in the schools because they are just wondering, what is there? What is there to even live for? I mean, what's going on in this world? And not the pandemic alone, but the racial unrest. I mean, what just happened in our Asian American community, that massacre in Atlanta. It's craziness all around. It really is. And so, one thing I would say to anyone that is listening, please, please, please listen to your young people. If they're telling you that they feel depressed, that they feel down, that if you notice they're starting to do any self-harming behaviors, you need to get them help. Don't bury your head in the sand like an ostrich, like, no, not my family. This isn't happening. It can happen. And it happens in any family with any race. It happens. And so these children are cutting themselves, they're burning themselves, they're looking online to see how they can kill themselves, all of these kind of things that a lot of parents are really in the dark about. So please don't act like it's not happening, because it is happening.
Yes, and just to bring awareness to what Robin just said in the comments about insurance not paying for that bill. I do want to say, if you do, depending on the job that you have, um, you can contact your HR and they'll give you,
Mm-hmm.
you have like 5 free services or 3 or something of that sort, and that helps because you're able to talk to somebody. Um,
Yes.
and even if you don't like if you don't have a full-time job or your job is not offering benefits, there are resources out there where you can get free therapy. Who's paying for like black men to go to therapy now? Is it Taraji P. Henson or someone of the sort is paying
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
go to therapy? So there are resources out there.
Yes.
In
Also,
Taraji specifically, black people with therapists.
yes.
So
I also want to add too, and I don't know if people are aware of this, but I know that some insurance companies, I know Blue Cross Blue Shield, I think United Healthcare, and I think there's another one that have waived the cost of copay for behavioral health care services during this pandemic. So before, when you would have to pay a $20 copay or whatever every time you saw your therapist, as long as it's online, you pay nothing. So
that's
this is the time, if you need counseling, that you should go ahead and take advantage of that. It is literally free. Your insurance will cover the whole thing. So you need to take advantage of that if that is something that you need.
yeah. Thank you for that. It's very important that we go to therapy and we realize, that we unpack some of the trauma and we also heal. Yeah, healing
Mhm.
hearts. That's exactly what it is designed for, and that is what your role is. So, definitely, I encourage people, Black people, Brown people, to just talk to a therapist because you don't even realize what all you're holding on to until you have the
Mhm.
conversation and you walk out and your shoulders are lighter, your body is lighter, it's like
Mhm.
on cloud, you feel a little free. After
Exactly.
while I was in care, um I had a very, 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 very great foster care agency. They gave me a therapist, a life coach, education counselor, all of that. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember going to therapy for the first time, and I didn't know what to expect because and I'm in high school. Black people don't go to therapy.
Right.
I'm
Uh-huh.
like, oh my god, what are they about? They're probably about to poke me like I'm some animal, and it was the best thing. Literally in high school, like transformative years.
Mm-hmm.
Growing,
Mm-hmm.
learning in the mind, in the body, everything's changing. And being able to go to therapy, I used to leave my sessions super happy, just
Mm-hmm.
healthier, feeling like I could conquer the world, wanting to go to school the next day. And it
Mm-hmm.
really made high school easy.
Yes.
That's hard. That's hard.
Yeah.
Growing through high school is a difficult task. So I really appreciate that. And I do appreciate my therapist
Mm-hmm.
at the New York Foundling for being able to provide that for me.
One thing I would like to add real quickly, I know we're about out of time, but I want to tell people that when you are looking for a therapist, make sure you are able to make a connection with that therapist, okay? And you should know if you've made a connection by about the second, definitely by the third time you've had a session with them. If you don't make a connection and you don't feel like it's a safe place for you, then you're not going to open up and you're not going to share and it's not going to be helpful to you. So move on and find another therapist. Don't just feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Trust me, they'll get over it. Okay. You're doing this for them. And I tell my clients that we work in partnership together. So it's important that we have a healthy therapeutic relationship of trust, mutual trust, so that I can help you with your issues that you're bringing. So don't feel like you have to settle on the first therapist that's offered to you. Get somebody that you're going to really connect with and can feel that you're in a safe space whenever you have sessions.
Yes, and thank you so much for that, Rachel. And thank you for your time. And I also do want to say, guys, please, please, please don't forget to share the Greater Than Expectations scholarship, because you don't know who wants to go to school and become a therapist, and you don't know
Yes.
who's in your network. So just make sure you're sharing this resource, because this can help a student a lot. And also send this episode to someone who's on the fence about therapy, who doesn't know, everything about therapy, because we did mention EAPs, and Rachel just dropped that tip about making that connection. So just make sure you guys are getting this out to your network. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
All right, everyone, have a wonderful night. BetterHelp.com/Rachel Phillips. Um, again, thank you. Everyone, have a wonderful night.